Hi everyone, my name is Cassie and welcome to my channel Bookish 4 Eyes. Today I'm doing a April wrap-up video. I managed to read 10 books in the month of April, which is pretty crazy because I feel like I haven't read that many books anywhere like in the last couple of months. So let's get right to it. I don't want this video to take up too much of your time. The first book that I read is called Red Clocks and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. Basically this book talks about 5 different women and each one of them has different experiences. One of them is a teacher who's desperately trying to get pregnant. Another one is a teenager who is pregnant. Another one is sort of like a healer, naturopath type woman who's also kind of accused of being a witch. And there's other sorts of things like that, and there's also a wife who is unhappy with her marriage, basically. So I liked this book, and I thought it was well written. I thought I was gonna like it more before I picked it up, so I guess it just like tiny bit, like just a little bit of it didn't live up to my expectations, but overall it was a decent read, and I liked it, and I think I got through it pretty fast. The next book that I read is called The Perfect Nanny, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I was really looking forward to reading this book, and it honestly didn't disappoint at all. It's a really heartbreaking story of a nanny who ends up watching 2 children, and she also kills them. The book starts with the death of the children and sort of describes that whole scenario, and then it goes right back to when it first started, when the 2 parents were initially looking for a nanny. So you kind of get to see the ending of how it all ended with the nanny, but you also get to see the whole journey to that point. Overall, I thought it was a great book, and it wasn't a very long read either, so if you're looking for a dark read, then I recommend that one. The next book that I read is called From Here to Eternity, and I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed that read. Basically, the author here is a mortician who decides to travel around the world and see how other cultures care for their dead. And I thought it was a very interesting and eye-opening book, and I was just so blown away by how different cultures handle the death of their loved ones differently than we do, and there's no right or wrong way. And I guess this book really opened my eyes to how if someone does something different than we do, we tend to judge it, whereas they view it as completely normal, and in some cases some cultures would judge our approaches and think that we're doing it wrong. So it was very interesting and very unique, and it's about a topic that not a lot of people like to talk about, but I think it's important nevertheless. The next book that I read is called Tangerine, and I gave the book 4 out of 5 stars. I also have a full review / tiny discussion about it, and I will link that down below in case you want to dig a little bit deeper and see what I talk about there. But I overall really liked this book. It was slow burning, but really well written, and the story kept me very captivated, so I really enjoyed it. The next book that I read is called Not That I Could Tell, and I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. Basically, I thought this book was anticlimactic, even though the plot seemed pretty interesting. It's about a little neighborhood, and a bunch of neighbors kind of hang out together and know each other, and one of the women ends up disappearing. No one knows where she went, but people try to blame her husband, and they don't really know what happened. I just thought there could have been a lot more there, but it turned out pretty obvious to me, so I was a little underwhelmed when I read that one. The next book that I read is called An American Marriage, and I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. As I predicted before, this book was very sad and heartbreaking, and I really was struggling with what I was reading about, but I also found that I didn't enjoy any of the characters because they all were very flawed, but in a real way. So I felt like I was reading about real people and not just fragments of the author's imagination. So I really liked it overall, and I definitely recommend it if you've been wanting to read it. This next book that I read is called The Flight Attendant, and I initially gave this book 1 star, but then I changed my mind, thinking that I went a little too harshly, and I gave it 2 stars. This book, I feel like it should not be called a thriller. I feel like a thriller is when you don't know like who done it until the very end, and it turns out that you were wrong on all your predictions. This book revealed who the person who did it was, like, in the first quarter of the book. And then after that, I just completely lost interest. And I don't know how anyone can compare this book to The Girl on the Train, which kept me guessing till the very end. I was contemplating doing a ranty video about this book, about how it completely failed as a thriller in my opinion, but you know, lots of people seem to like this book, so if you enjoy it or if you've been looking forward to reading it, don't let my negativity sway you otherwise. The next book that I read is called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This is related to the book that I read earlier in the month, which was called From Here to Eternity. This is the first book by that author. And this one talks about her experiences when she first started out as a mortician and all the things that she had to get used to and didn't expect and didn't know, but I was just so interested in her journey, and it was very, very informative. And I feel like that might be missing from some people's lives because we don't really come face to face with death and dying and all that goes into it that often or that in depth. So I felt like I genuinely learned something and was able to dig a little bit deeper into a topic that doesn't get discussed much. The next book that I read is called Emil Isis, and I give this book 3 out of 5 stars. This is by the author who wrote Pretty Little Liars. I haven't read that, but this book was pretty good. It was a little like, there was a lot going on. There was kind of a storyline for like the actual characters and also a book that the character wrote, so like each chapter was a different thing. I thought it was pretty good, and there was a lot of things that kind of kept me guessing, and I was not suspecting, but overall I thought it was just an alright read, so do with that what you will. The last and final book that I read is called This Will Be My Undoing, and I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. This was a great read just because Morgan Jerkins really was able to bring out such helpful information, and I think it's something that as a white person you don't really realize a lot of the times, and you're very ignorant to the experiences of Black women. As much as you like to be a feminist and you like to support everybody, you just don't experience it the same way, and you don't know how they feel and what they go through and all of their struggles. And I thought that this book did a great job of really kind of opening my eyes and giving me that experience and letting me know what kind of struggles other people go through and how it's tough for them. And I think being more aware of it is better for everybody, and overall I really enjoyed this book. So there you have it, my 10 books that I read. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, and also please let me know if you're looking forward to reading any of these. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.